Larry Fisher and Scott Trotter, who will be plugging in shortly. We need to do the moment of silence and pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next order on the agenda is any public comment for agenda items only. I see none. Next item on is the agenda and consideration for approval of this meeting agenda. I need a motion.
I make a motion.
And I second.
Okay, motion made by Rich Johnson, second by Lisa Pacell. Any approve in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Corrections?
Perfect.
Oh,
This is the agenda, not the minutes.
okay.
So none opposed, so the agenda passes. Now we're going to move over to the minutes. Consideration of approving the minutes from the May 21, 2025 meeting. Are there any comments or revisions to the minutes?
Just two comments. In the second sentence, or third sentence, where it says approximately 1.4 committed for stormwater. Just for clarity, I think we should add million.
Yes.
So it should read 1.4 million committed for stormwater management. The second is the abbreviation AARPA and ARRPA should be corrected to ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act.
All in favor of accepting the,
You need a motion first.
Oh, I
You
apologize.
went right to comment, but you didn't do a
Got it.
motion, so go ahead and do a motion.
got it, we need a motion to approve the suggested minutes submitted by Rich Johnson.
So moved.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? None? So those updates are approved. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
We can move over and Steve can probably give us a bit of an update. Obviously, I noticed Tom's not here. Is Tom on vacation, Steve?
I didn't think so, but
Okay,
I will,
you will 40 lashes? Okay,
I'll fumble through here and we'll see where we are.
thanks, Steve.
So really quickly, I want to take a couple minutes and talk about the strategic plan and the comp plan that are coming up, because I think that's one of the things that I really want to make sure you all are focused on. So the township is actually just finishing up our latest comp plan. Comp plans are good for 10 years in Pennsylvania for local government. We've approved our last comp plan in 2016. It's hard to believe that 10 years has flown by that quickly, but I mean, 2026 is literally right around the corner. And if we blink twice, we'll probably be there. It's coming pretty quick. So I just would make note that the township approved, the Board of Supervisors approved us putting together a comp plan that involves also a strategic plan this time, with the idea that the two would be focused and intertwined, and they would become two documents that we would literally kind of make all decisions by going forward, including our budgeting decisions and things like that. Not that we haven't been using them, but it's really going to be key to how we move forward. The strategic plan is really going to be a basis of how we move forward in carrying out the comp plan and making sure we accomplish all the things we want to accomplish. The comp plan, again, will be for 10 years. The strategic plan is going to be actually 3 different plans within that 10-year cycle. The first one will be for 4, and then the next 2 will be for 3 apiece, with the idea that over as we get done the first 3 years, we'll start the next 3 years worth of strategic planning. Once we're into that one for 2 years, we'll do the last 3 years. And
Stephen, if you
do
could
that.
just amplify the distinction between comprehensive versus strategic.
Okay, if you think about it like this, that the comp plan looks at what we want the township to look like. And then the strategic plan is how we're getting there. If
Okay.
if we kind of take
Perfect.
it,
Perfect.
and that's an oversimplification. But the strategic plan is really going to look at how we finance what we want to accomplish. The strategic plan is going to talk about what kind of resources we need to accomplish the comp plan, those kind of things, is the goal. Comp plan usually gives you some broad goals of what they want, of what you want to achieve. But the strategic plan is how are we actually going to make it happen? So that's the reason why I want to put the two together and make it work. The strategic plan also tends to be a little bit broader in regards to, the comp plan tends to look at more of land development and preserving natural resources and those kind of things. Strategic plan will also probably pick up on how we're going to handle public safety and those kind of things that tend not to be dwelt on in the comp plan. And so, although I'm talking with the team that's doing this, they may actually tweak our comp plan a little bit to include those things and make the strategic plan really just focus on how to accomplish what we have in the comp plan.
Is there, are you going to look for support or input from the various committees of the township,
So-
including this committee?
So that was my next.
Sorry.
You're leading, no, it's a perfect segue. So, the first public meeting, we've met, with the board, selected the contractor who's doing the consultant, and it's Simone Collins, along with some folks that they brought in as a team. And so we have them. In addition, they've brought in, they've picked 14 members of our community, 7 who are focusing on the comp plan and 7 who are focusing on the strategic plan, to be a part of that. And I say of our community, some are committee members from different committees. Some are business folks from within the community. And some are just resident. I shouldn't say, that sounds terrible.
Yeah.
They're not just residents, they're key residents in our
Yeah.
community. I want to be very clear. But they have some connection to it in some way. And so they put together this committee, of 14, 7 and 7, who are going to steer us through the process over the next year and a half. And, so there's going to be opportunity for those folks to have input throughout the process. There's going to be public opportunity. And that first public meeting is September 3rd. There's one at 4 o'clock and one at 6 o'clock. They are the same meeting, 2 different times. The idea being able to capture, hopefully some folks who could do 4 and couldn't do 6, and folks who could do 6 who can't do 4. But they're doing it. Their consultant will be here on those 2 or on that day for those 2 periods. They're about a 2-hour window for each of those. They think the session will probably be about an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes kind of thing. But an opportunity for people to come in and give input. In addition to that, there's going to be a survey going out. I just was reviewing the material for the survey last night, the publication piece, to get it out. I think that's going to be going out in the August newsletter, will be up on our website. It will be, it'll be out in a variety of places. I'm going to look at doing postcards to every household, encouraging people to do this. You'll receive a QR code that allows you to go right to the survey, take the survey. I've looked at the survey. The survey is about, I think you can probably do it in 10 minutes, kind of thing. If you put some thought into it, if you don't put a lot of thought in it, you probably do it less, but put some thought into it. I hope people do. We had an incredibly great turnout from our last survey. We set out 7,000. We got 1,500 responses. So I would hope that Newtown repeats itself.
Gift cards attached or something?
Yeah, really. I mean, that's like, if you know anything about surveys, that was just like an incredible response. I have people who are still asking me how we did it, and I'm like, I'm not sure, other than it was right before COVID, and we had a lot of people very interested in a lot of things going on in town. So hopefully we get equal response this time. It's been hard to believe it's been over 5 years since we've done that. And so we're gonna try to get that word out a couple different ways to make sure people have an opportunity to do that. We're gonna hopefully have it up in some storefronts and some things like that, so people will do the QR code. So everybody from the public will have that opportunity to weigh in.
One of the questions I thought about is whether or not is this going to be township specific, or is it going to be including municipal authority and the school board in terms of their effect on the community?
The focus is township specific. It obviously, there's questions that relate to both. But the focus is specifically what the folks of the community want the township to be doing. We're not getting into what the municipal authority ought to be doing or what the school district ought to be doing. Part of the challenge, particularly with the school district, this is totally separate entity. I mean, we have zero control of what the school district does. Vice versa, the school district has zero control over what we do.
Right.
And the only control over the municipal authority that we have, well, two controls. One is that the board gets to pick who the members are.
Yeah.
But once the members are picked,
Yeah.
they
Autonomous.
govern totally independently from the Board of Supervisors. Like
Okay.
the Board of Supervisors doesn't get to approve what they do or not approve what they do. They get to do it. The only exception to that is if the municipal authority borrows money and they need to use the township's power of taxing to guarantee the loan,
Yeah.
which is what they did when they borrowed the 33 million. And the township then had to approve the bond that was issued. So that's the only time that the township really gets involved in the authority's
Okay.
business. So I see it as pretty much two separate entities. It's confusing because we use township personnel to run the municipal authority.
Yeah.
And so people kind of assume that it's both and that they're together, but they are really two separate entities. Even just like the library, most people don't understand, but the library is not, the library is not a township department. The library is its own separate entity.
Yeah, that
We
may be
just-
one of the things for the committee to think about in terms of for the public,
Mhm.
for them to frame it, because I suspected if you quiz the township,
Oh, there are
they
people,
would presume it's all just one banana and not the case. So that'll hopefully cut down on people coming with their torches and pitchforks against the municipal authority.
it's more of a banana split.
Thank you. Not bad, you know?
The one thing I will add to this discussion is maybe there is some opportunity not to work together, but to share
Oh,
information
absolutely.
if we're doing things. So, and I can keep, because that's what comes to mind for me, for the school board. I want to see a study of the demographics, and I think they're gonna do that. And so if the school board is doing that, hopefully we could at least
Yeah,
Share the
collaborate.
data.
collaborate on
Yeah.
and share knowledge, right?
Yeah, what I will tell you is we're gonna have some focus groups throughout this process as well for the strategic plan that will involve folks like yourselves, that will involve folks who are in other areas. And one of those, I'm sure, is going to include school folks, because you don't function in the community, even though we're two separate entities, you can't function in a vacuum. But when I think about the school folks, we have Marple Newtown School District, but we also have St. Anastasia. We also have Episcopal Academy. We also have the Delaware County Christian School. They are, they're key players in our community on the area of education. And that's not counting the Garrett Williamsons and the
daycare.
Goddard schools and all the other schools that are in town. And If I left you out, I didn't mean to. And, we have talk schools and, we have all of those kind of education opportunities within town. And most people don't even know about Melmark, right? And Melmark is another place where we've got education and support going on in our community. And so, to me, all of those folks need to have input into who we're going to be. Because if they don't weigh in, we're going to leave out, a huge majority of our population. And so, or at least a huge portion of our population. And so we need to make sure we include those in that process. So that's all part of that. And so.
And in terms of our particular committee, anything in particular we need to do or just?
Well, I think that as we move forward and we start getting into that strategic side and we start really looking for it from a purpose of budgeting and for purposes of moving forward, that would be when I really want to make sure you guys are in tune and weighing in on what's going to be presented and what's going to be move forward. Because when we start talking about how we're going to finance this long term, all the things that we want to do, that's going to be a piece of it. And so we'll want to make sure that you guys are part of that.
Thank you, Steve.
That's what I have
Any
for
other
that.
questions from,
Sounds
Maybe-
exciting.
Greg?
Sounds good.
So again, just everybody remember September 3rd is the first kickoff meeting and then other meetings will follow. There's a whole schedule that is up on the website of when all the meetings will be. Focus meetings have not been determined yet, and we're going to do focus groups once we understand what the broader need is.
Thank you, Steve. Perfect. Second topic, whether or not you have any updates that you think you want to share with the committee other than where we are in terms of financials.
Other than financials.
You don't know, financial.
Oh, I'll let Tom.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Hello. Okay. Okay. First, my apologies. 422 East is always a chore. And I spent, let's see, of my trip, I spent an hour and 7 minutes from Collegeville to 202.
Yeah.
Because the bridge is out. Normally I go in Oaks. Dave one with the little.
Oh,
bridge.
yeah, the bridge.
Yeah, so I apologize. So just a quick overview of what's happened the first 5 months of, from a revenue standpoint, obviously real estate taxes are pretty high from the respect that we've collected. For 25 budget, we've collected 93% already through May of 25,
Oh, okay.
25,
Very good.
2025 budgeted real estate tax revenue.
How does that compare to prior years at this point?
It's actually up by 7%. Yeah, it was a little,
Great.
it was down.
And the
in
trend is
80
going the right way.
Trend's going the right way. It was 86 before. We always, and Steve will probably attest to this, historically. We normally get 99% of it
Yeah.
collected. I mean, the amount that goes to tax claim is minimal.
Yep.
Yeah, it's amazing. From a state funding standpoint, our Act 655 money we get for liquid fuels on an annual basis. We received $433,000. It's pretty bad when you remember these numbers. $433,000, at which we used, you may know, that we, in the past 4 years, we've used the allotment we get from the state to pay off the interest portions and the principal portions of a loan that we use, have a big loan we borrowed to get the roads program going.
Yeah.
And a lot has been accomplished.
Is that the current year or is that just the spillover from the prior fiscal year from the state?
That's the current year. The 433 is our money we get each year.
Okay, got
Yeah,
it. So
it
it's
keeps
timely.
picking up. Yeah, it was 419 last year, so it moves up incrementally. The good news is we paid off the final portion of that with the proceeds. We were able to pay off the final portion of the principal and interest in excess of $500,000 was our last payment in May of this year. So Going forward, unless we borrow again, we have the ability to just take the funds themselves.
Yeah.
And,
So there's
Correct.
no stipulation in terms of how the state awards that money, that it can only go to certain things?
Oh,
Correct.
it is very,
yes, yeah, it's very limited.
it can only go to road. type of-
Road related expenses.
road-related expenses.
Got it.
I mean, now, when I say that, that's a pretty broad definition by
understand.
the state.
Infrastructure, right,
I mean, it can be repaving, it can be
rebuild,
paying for the team that's doing the work, it can be
consulting, the engineer.
salting, it
Salt.
can be those kind of things. But what we made a decision, actually, I think it was made before I came, but it was finalized once I got here 10 years ago, is that those dollars would be used for paving projects on an ongoing basis. And so that, you know, we're not paying
Dedicated.
our public works staff for the hours they spend maintaining roads out of that money. We're paying for just when we repave. And the real reason is we need double that every year to be able to keep up with what we need to do to keep our roads in shape and taken care of. In the last 12, 13 years, we've done a little over half of the township. And we're gonna be well above that when we finish this year. And so that's been a very important part of where we are. We know that we need to stay on a cycle of at least every 25 years redoing these roads.
Mhm.
And so we've learned that two things. One is even if we just had 400,000, we wouldn't be able to keep up. It takes more than that. We need double that, like I said. In addition, with having 52 plus miles of roadway, you know, it means you're doing about 2 miles a year if you look divided over 25 years. And we've said, we don't want to do a program every year. We do a program every other year with the idea that we do a bigger program
Yeah.
in that
Economical.
year. And because we do that, we get a better bid.
Yeah.
We usually, to be honest, we get a better contractor. Usually because you get the bigger contractors willing to
Get interested.
get interested on it because it's bigger.
And they want the recurring work. so
And
they're
they
gonna
want
give
the
you-
recurring work. And what we
Yeah.
did this year, and we'll probably do going forward, Panoni, who is our engineer, has several other municipalities in the county that they are responsible for doing engineering with. And so we went together with those municipalities and went out to bid.
So like mutual.
So our project was much larger, which we ended up getting like a state contract highway level contractor to do our project. So I anticipate we're gonna have a really good project this year.
Got it. Back to Tom, anything else? In terms of specifically, anything that's not tracking to your satisfaction?
No, in fact, the expenses are relatively controllable to the portion of the fiscal year it's already been expended. So everything
Perfect.
seems to be in line. The only thing we run into is, like anything else, we have snow removal expenses
Yeah.
spike in the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And then if you're just looking at it, just
Right, you
period
can,
period expended, then it starts at the end.
it's out, right?
We've got 500 tons, I think he said, of salt left. Preparing for we've already, it's already.
Right, with our
Yeah.
lack of snow last winter, you already
Right, So
stockpiled.
we're prepared for the end of the year, so that's already.
Yeah.
In my cost numbers, for the first 5 months. So yeah, no, everything seems to be where.
One of the things I thought about with what happened in Texas, the horror,
Oh, yeah.
is like with what happens here in our township, and thank God we haven't had a 20-inch rain. But in terms of how is Public Works doing relative to the intensity of the storms? And I want to get into the politics about behind it, but are they okay, or they see something that really is giving them cause for concern?
Well, I think one of the things that we've noticed, you know, George and I, we watch this pretty closely, obviously. And I mean, as the storms intensify and as there are more, not only more rain, but we've had more wind. you know,
Yeah,
and
the
one-
storm 2 Thursdays ago, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
one of the challenges that we have is that this spring, we've had a ton of rain. Like, I mean, if you've looked at the reservoir, what they said was gonna take 2 years to fill
Yeah.
has,
Took 2
you know,
months.
we've basically done in 2 months, is right. And so we've had all this rain, which has been a big impact. And it's made the ground very soft. And so when you look at some of the trees that came down during that storm that we had, they were huge trees. I mean, really huge
Yeah,
trees.
the one 252 in
Well,
front of
the-
Lissitor, right?
Yeah.
And I gotta tell you, they weren't the biggest.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we had a tree that fell over in Ashley, road that took our team 2.5 hours just to cut a path through it so that they could open up the
Yeah,
the
they
roadway.
opened the road, right?
And so, which is unusual. I mean, our team normally goes, they put the front end loader on it and they just move the tree to the side of the road and they can go clear multiple roads within an hour.
Yeah,
You know,
they
I
were
mean,
amazing. I will say, because I noticed, because I went from here to media and I noticed the difference.
Yeah.
We had our trees at least cut and moved aside. It was very impressive.
I have to tell you, I would put our public works team up against any public works team, particularly for the number of guys that we have in the area that we cover.
Yeah.
They are just, they know how to do it quickly. They don't waste time. They go do what they have to do. They get the roads open and then they go back and do cleanup. And so, or it's left up, in some cases, it's the property owner's responsibility to do cleanup, but they make sure that the roads are clear.
Yeah.
And everything's done. What I will tell you, what we experienced this time that we haven't experienced in the past, is we've had multiple times where our trails have been blocked because of the trees that have come down, and not one space. I mean, the Goshen Trail, I think there were 6 trees that were down that blocked the Goshen Trail. And that's less than a mile, you know, so it's, we're looking at that level of the intensity is causing us to have to do more things quickly. And so we watch it. I mean, our team responds. You know, the minute that we get the call, 15 minutes, we have people out on the spot and doing the work. So it's not like we're waiting hours for people to come in and those kind of things.
From a budgetary perspective, though, you're
It's-
comfortable with realizing the work may be getting more intense, but we're adequately funded for it, or is this?
Well, I mean, we put money in the budget for overtime
Overtime.
for those kind of things. And we,
Realizing we didn't pay the overtime for the storm, for the winter snowstorms.
actually, we paid a lot of money for winter
We did.
snowstorm.
Really, without
you-
the snow?
Well, we had, when we got the snow, the snow was not, the snow came in the hours that forced us to have folks in overtime.
Okay.
And so, you know, it's
Wrong
always,
time of day.
you know, well, actually, I always argue it's actually not a bad time of day. In regards to if our team can get out and get the roads clear when there's not a lot of traffic, it's usually better. And so, and it's usually safer for our team and it's safer for the folks who are on the road. I don't mind us having to do overnight storms. They're usually the best way we can be prepared to have people be able to get out in the morning and be able to go. And so, but I will say that we kind of budget for that. We kind of know typically where we are. I think we're probably going to push the limits this year, to be honest with you. We've had to use the public works team in more ways than we've had to use them in the past. And I think that's going to continue. I mean, even for the purpose, our fire safety folks, our fire police folks, they're a great team, but to be honest, and they're aging and there are not a lot of young people coming in wanting
So
to
you,
do
you're
that.
envisioning that capital's gonna have to be expended going forward?
I don't know if it's gonna
Equipment?
be, I don't necessarily know if it's capital or equipment, but I see us having, like, the accident that was on Westchester Pike this week
Yeah,
typically would have been a fire police response. They couldn't get the fire, there wasn't enough fire police to get out and do the response. So we ended up having 3 public works members be responsible for traffic control that day. So it's those kind of things that I think are going to continue to grow as we have challenges of other resources in the community. So if you know anybody who's like in early retirement and says, I could go do that, it's a great opportunity to get folks in to do the fire police, get to wear a badge, and have a
Yeah.
uniform and,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, they're sworn in just like any other police officer. They have authority.
So the issue though, the chronic issue though, is the staffing, the volunteer staffing of the fire department.
Well, it's that and other things. I'm just saying, like, I think the demand on our staff, when you increase the intensity of storms, you have resource issues that are less. It forces us to be
Both.
better creative, more creative in how we approach things. And, you know, there will be times that there'll be a slower response. We will get the roads open, but it may take us several weeks to get cleanup done just because there's the amount of staff we have and the amount of resources that are being pulled in multiple directions make it hard.
Right. Sorry,
And-
Tom, we took some of
That-
your,
No, that's actually, one of the highlights, given the circumstances that Steve detailed. The overtime has been budgeted and we're in line so far, okay, from that
Good.
respect. So that's not a panic situation, it's very controllable. And they do, I commend them from everything from in the mornings they clean the bathrooms and take the trash out. So I mean, you have, George guys has a great, committed staff over there. They show up.
great.
But crazy nights, sometimes I'll be here and I hear somebody talking. I'm like, what's going on? Oh, it's pouring rain. I forgot trees are probably down, you know, I'll wait here. But, the only other thing is we have, historically, we have, about 900 to $1 million, 9,000 to $1 million of, reimbursements, state, there. It's not including it's including our pensions, but we have things like, for example, our school resource officer. I always forget what SRO stands for. We have a dedicated, officer. So we get reimbursed, a lot of his direct costs, everything from longevity to everything else. So, it gets reimbursed to us by the, school district.
Mhm.
Crossing guards as well, we get 50% of that, so that's always a good thing. We also, as Steve was alluding to, while we have a separation between ourselves and the municipal authority, we do have staff. Township staff takes care of that.
Is there a reimbursement there from the
Yes,
authority?
yes, we just, actually, we just submitted the 2024 reimbursement, okay, and then, shortly after.
Right, roll over.
The end of,
Right.
yes, so that was, I'm trying to remember the number, it was in excess of, it was approximately $200,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that
Good.
includes, and it'll increase next year because we have, Caitlin Sullivan's on staff and she's the, director. of
The
operations.
trending on the two keys in my mind are the permits and the transfer tax.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the transfer tax, I think I have that, hold on. Let's go back to,
I think we're gonna be okay in permits
Yes.
this year,
we're gonna,
because we've got a couple projects that are moving
That
forward
popped up.
that popped up. And you've got a couple things that are going on. Again, I'm still projecting that's gonna drop off at some point.
Right.
And it is less than it has been, you know, I mean, we have just less area to develop. It obviously has to be less, right? Although one of the things that we are seeing is there is a lot of what I call redevelopment of areas. There's a lot of, but most of that's like just interior renovations. It's not
Remodeling.
somebody tearing down a building and starting over.
Yeah.
Which is where typically the larger
Larger
dollars
dollars
are.
are, sure.
And so, but we're seeing that.
And the transfer tax situation is, through 5 months, and you need to remember, obviously, because accrual base is the first.
Yeah.
First couple, the largest bucket we got in what would be the beginning of, February was for the end of last year. So we're still at, just over $250,000, which is substantial.
Where
so
you,
far.
where you budgeted
We
though.
budget- we
More
bud-
interested in the,
The
whether
budget,
or not we're tracking
we are
budget
tracking,
or.
we're tracking.
Well, we're a little
much higher,
behind,
much
right?
lower.
We're tracking from the respect that, yes, we're a little behind. We're about, we're running a little about 30%, and then we're through 41% of the year. So it's
Right.
not, it's
Yeah,
not.
but some of the
dramatic.
real estate closings happen in the summer.
Correct, they
Yeah.
do, and I've already got the prelims
Yeah.
for, June.
I mean, we had actually budgeted less anyhow for
Right.
this year based on the anticipation it would be down. I will tell you, the housing market's a lot slower. I'm watching
Because of
houses.
the interest rate.
You know, it used to be a house would sit 3 or 4 days and you would see a for sale sign in front of it.
Yeah,
I have seen some houses now.
Yeah.
Going on, couple months, which is very different. Now, it could be that they're just overpriced.
Yeah.
But I think that that's part of the pullback. What we're seeing. It's definitely a buyer's market today and not a seller's market.
Yeah.
In what I'm seeing, even here in Newtown. So, I suspect we're gonna see that continue to kind of drop a little bit probably over the next year, based on what I'm seeing.
And somewhat related to that, just to close the loop on that one, is, and we get the reports of, the interim assessment changes. There's a fair amount that the increases have gone from a land value to a number, and that's, so you're talking 50,000 to like 450, 550, things like that.
got it.
So the trend from that standpoint will take our real estate tax level up, so that'll help from that respect.
Right, build it into the base, right?
Yes.
What about the other side of that? Are there tax appeals that are,
Yeah, we've been having a lot of tax appeals. I've seen that, and I anticipate some more.
we're seeing it too? in the
Yeah.
school
Yes.
board?
Yeah, so it does have a direct impact. I mean, it's significant dollars. It was probably 6 months ago that I received 2 letters in the mail from attorneys suggesting that I reach out to them and appeal my taxes. And so, and they're doing it on a contingency basis. And so, there's really little to no downside to doing it.
Yeah,
other than-
very rarely is the case where something's underassessed.
Well, and I mean, exactly.
Right.
And so, it's kind of driving this push. But the people that are mostly doing it are your commercial folks. And, we have a lot of office space that's sitting empty.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that drives down the value of that
Yeah.
office space, which those are the ones that have a direct impact,
Okay, Campus Boulevard.
is there. And so, we need to look at those pieces and figure out what that means long-term.
And a kind of chuckle along the side of what Steve, the mass mailings that are going out. We received, it was in my mailbox, we received one directed to the township saying, we can help you with your,
We can help reduce
with
the
your
town.
assessment, and you're paying,
That's
you're paying over $7 million in taxes.
Yeah.
I thought it was fun. I put it, I didn't say anything. I put it in Marie's tab,
Yeah.
I put it in her slot. And I go, you might want to see me about this. She's reading it, and she's looking at me, she's reading it, she's looking at me, she goes, this is a joke, right? I go, yes, it is. We always deal with serious stuff, this is great. She starts laughing,
That's really
should I
fun.
keep it? I go, give me
Yeah, frame it.
I shredded it,
Thank you.
yeah.
Next topic, move along, new business. I do have one. I don't know whether or not Lisa or Rich has any other topics on new business. Larry passed one to me that I wanted to broach with you. Anything you guys want to go first?
Not from
Okay.
us. Mhm.
Larry's wheels are turning. One of his key things he thinks about is new revenue sources. Stephen, he wanted to double back on the amusement tax. In terms of, just for a little bit of clarity for us, like, how is it imposed? Who is it imposed on? How does it work? That type of thing.
Yeah, so we're actually doing some work on it and it's imposed on. It's limited to the amusement itself and it cannot include food and beverages. So, for example, for those who have seen the amusement tax attached to the PGA event, and I've gotten a lot of phone calls about that. People said, seems excessive, but let me kind of talk through kind of how I see what's going to happen. We only get the amount that's on the value of the ticket that is really for the admission to the event as for the event itself. It doesn't, and their tickets actually include, like, I think you can eat all the hot dogs and whatever food they have. And I think you get all the non-alcoholic drinks you want as part of your ticket. So whatever value that's on that ticket, that's for that comes off the top before the tax.
So
is
for
assessed.
example, if the ticket is $200
Yeah,
and the vendor provides a valuation that's the non-alcoholic beverage and food is included, and that amounts to $70. The amusement tax would be imposed on 130.
correct. And so that people understand how the tax is going to be used and what's going to happen with the tax. So the agreement, we haven't gotten to all the agreements through with them yet. We're working through some of this.
All right, so it's not necessarily, there's no businesses out there right now that are paying this.
Well, I'm gonna talk about that. We have two businesses in town that we think would be responsible to pay it,
Got it.
that are here all the time. The first thing that we're doing is we're looking at we're looking at how they're going to do it ongoing. The amusement tax ordinance was written a little cumbersomely.
Yeah.
And so we're making a couple slight adjustments to it, setting it up so that I can do the collection and not the tax collector, just
Yeah.
because it would be
Well,
awkward to make the tax collector do that. There's, it would just be easier for the township to do it. And so we're gonna do that. And there's a few other things that we're gonna do to make some adjustments to it. And so that we're working on, and we'll finalize that hopefully in the next 60 days or so. And then there'll be the two golf courses that are in town that are the people, I think, know them as M Golf
mhm.
and Old Masters, or I
Yeah.
think it's Valley View is
On
what they're
3, yeah.
down on the end. So they're the two amusements in town that we are aware of. It does not include like your fire hall bingo. It does not include school districts,
Church raffle.
doing that. There is a question, and and that's the other thing we wanted to clean up in the language. If the school district's selling tickets to the public, there was some question of whether or not those
Yeah.
tickets would be. I think we're going to take that out of the mix, and because we don't want to harm school district events, and we don't want to harm those kind of things. It's, that's not the goal.
Yeah, the firehouse doing fundraising.
But exactly, we're not trying to make it more difficult for those kind of things to
Got
happen.
it.
So we're doing that, we're looking at all that, clarifying all of that. But when we go back, I've seen the threads on social media, the township's going to be bringing in $50 million. We're not bringing
Right.
in $50 million. I don't even.
Conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, I don't see that. The PGA itself thinks there's about $1 million that's going to be in that tax, which is significant.
Sure.
But I'm going to tell you right now, we know that the cost of police for this event is somewhere between $500,000 and $700,000.
Sure. so the
And
net-
that's not counting fire company, that's
Right.
not counting bringing in emergency management to be set up. That's not, counting other things that we're going to need to manage this event. So this isn't some big great windfall for the
Yeah.
township. I think that we're gonna see that most of the dollars are gonna be spent on managing the event.
Yeah.
And that's what we're in negotiations with them about, like, how much we're gonna pay of that, how much they're gonna pay of it, and then how much we get out of it in that way. So, but there's some equipment we know we need to manage the event that we don't have, that would benefit us. We've made some investments already to be prepared. I can't count how many hours our staff has already put into this event. And we haven't
Yeah, the
even,
incremental costs, legal costs, all those
yeah,
things.
all of those
Right,
things.
understood. Is there any limitation on I'll call it the net revenue that would likely be generated after these incremental costs? Is there any limitation on where that revenue can be spent, or can it go into the general fund?
It can go into the general fund. The thing that I would say is I want to be careful. I mean, it's one thing if it's net revenue from M Golf and from the Valley View Golf. If we pick up another $10,000 a year and
It's rounding.
it sets up, it covers, something in the budget, that's fine. This money, this is I want to remind folks, this is a one-time event. I mean, the last time the PGA had an event in town that would have qualified for this tax. I think maybe the women's LPG could have qualified, but the BMW wouldn't have qualified because it was a nonprofit who was doing the event. So they were raising money for what they were doing. And so it would have not qualified in the event itself. It's not every event qualifies. And it's not, the last time the PGA was at Aronimink for this event was 1962. If it gives you any idea of how long ago that was, I can tell you because that was the year I was born.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
right. Yeah, we both were born that
You
year.
can envision the politics
Yes.
of the folks that run Aronimink wanting to be a regular stop on the tour.
Sure.
And could this be and something that would inhibit the decision makers to say, well, we could put it somewhere else where there's no amusement tax?
Well, I think a couple things. One is, if we didn't have the amusement tax, we would be making them pay for all the police charges
incremental costs.
on their own.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
we don't have an offset.
I see. So this
So,
would be, well, you're
I
really
think-
passing it along to the customer.
I think it's just a different where the bucket's being used to pay from. And that's the difference. And so, and they've told us that, like in other communities that have the tax, they don't pay for the police. In communities that don't have the tax, they pay for the police, and so they know how to play the game, right? I mean, like,
Yeah, yeah.
look, I mean,
Yeah, it's not
they've
their
been
work
doing this
first
longer
rodeo.
than we have, right? And they're,
Right.
they know how to get to where they need to be to
Yeah.
do what they're doing. And, that obviously if they pay out too much, then they can't pay out what they need to in the prize winnings to
Right.
make this work, right? And
Right.
so then you don't get the quality of golfers that you want. I mean, like.
No, I
there-
realize in the overall scheme of things, with the
It's,
revenue that's generated from the promotion, the advertising, the coverage, it's.
So-
right.
so going back to your point about the net, my recommendation to the board will be that we use it on one-time type of expenses. If we have any revenue that's significant coming out of this, or any revenue that's coming out of it, it should be used for one-time type of expenses.
Okay.
Whether that's a capital expense or whether it's even an operating expense that we don't normally do. That's how I would apply it.
Okay. Any other questions from the committee on this? And I think that covers Larry's questions. He carved them out for me here. I think he hit it all. Thank you, Steve. Old business. My wheels are still turning, and now with the comprehensive and strategic plan scheduled in September, I do think it's imperative that finance put something out to the public regarding what we've talked about repeatedly in terms of what is the trend? What's gone on in the township for the last 5 years
Yeah.
directionally on the major revenue generation items. Transfer tax, permitting fee, and the real estate tax. To give folks a sense of, and overall from a budget perspective, really a fourth category, where have we come out at the end of the year? Have we come out positive, have we come out negative? So that going into this, because finance, taxes will ultimately become part of the strategic plan. Give people a little bit of a baseline, or at least something for them to be able to raise questions. Well, what about this or what about that? So I do think now it's timely that we get this done.
Yes.
That we get something that's distinct. It doesn't have to be used, you got their attention for 20 seconds. If it's longer than that, they're just gonna glaze over. So I put this out to our committee members, whether or not we can actually schedule some time with Tom where we can give this a couple of hours and at least put something up on the board for the August meeting, if we have an August meeting on realizing vacations, but that we're at least, if not ready on September 3rd, that we've got something ready to go so that we can release it to the public.
Yeah, I think I can do that. I've already given some thought and I sent Scott an email to see if we can get together, but maybe it's best to just meet all together with, here. We just continue where we picked up, or pick up from where we left off the last time. But more, I already have some information with,
From the school board.
well, it's really from prior meetings.
Oh,
where-
okay. Yeah,
where,
yeah.
We've sort of gathered all the
Yeah.
key points.
It's putting something
putting
together
it together.
that we can all say, yeah, that makes sense. I don't want to run
Right.
afoul of
Yeah.
what Tom and Steve, I don't want to hit any raw buttons. That's why I want to have
Mhm.
powers that be see this first, because it'll obviously be something that will become a topic of significant discussion.
Sure. And is there a way to put it in some sort of context? I know that where we are compared to other townships or in the county, so that there's a perspective. They see a raw number, how do they interpret?
Yeah, I think the challenge, I think it's hard because no two municipalities are exactly the same. And so, if I compare myself to Middletown, we may be doing really well in one area or really poorly in one area, but then you look and you say, well, they don't have a police department. And then you compare yourself to another community and, they don't have something else that we have, or they have something that we don't have.
What about from a higher level, like overall total tax?
Well, and that's, I think that's why I'm saying that is like, your tax is so much based on,
Oh.
you like, so for example, we don't have the lowest taxes in Delaware County, but we have one of the lowest taxes for municipalities that have a police department. Okay, so you look
But
at
see,
it.
that's an important distinction right there.
Right, but
Then you
I
have
can't
same
say
thing
we have the
with
lowest taxes.
Yeah.
Because there's other communities that definitely have lower taxes than we do.
I'm just talking about some sort of context, so
Yeah,
there's a
It-
way to evaluate that.
but it gets more complicated
Yeah,
than that.
Rich, I know where you're coming from with that, like you always want to benchmark, but I think that may be round 2,
Mhm.
rather than trying to do this in round 1. That's gonna get really complicated with lots of footnotes. And folks are gonna be like, they're killing me with numbers.
Well,
So I
and
would
just-
rather do round 1, round 2. Be ready, because I have to think folks are gonna come in and they're gonna ask those questions in September or whenever it gets down to numbers in the strategic meeting. That, okay, you gotta be ready with, well, really, how is the township doing relative to? Are we doing a great job, a good job, an average job, a poor job? You gotta be ready with that type of information.
Would
But
some
put it
other
in
columns
paper is gonna be
help
hard.
that?
Yeah, I think they can help us and we'll look at all of that. I just want to tell you, it's really not a simple task because every time I talk to a fellow municipality and say, what are you doing with this? Or how are you doing with that?
Yeah.
You start looking and you say, all right, you get a borough, for example, that is like Swarthmore Borough or some of the other boroughs here, and they're very dense. They're,
Yeah.
they're probably, most of them are probably not a square mile, and we're 10. And so how do you do a comparison?
Public
With somebody
Works.
like that and what that looks like, and, but they may have as many miles of roadway in that square mile as we do, or they may not, because they may be very dense and very rows, one right after another. I mean, I don't think Swarthmore is even close, but in some in some areas, it's very close. And then in other areas, it's much different. You can't compare yourself to, can you compare yourself? You have to pick, like, even if I just pick second-class townships to compare us to, because that's what we are, they're so varied. And some do trash, some don't do trash. Some, it's like I'd start talking to them and it's like, is it involved in their taxes or is it a separate fee? And you have to go through and you have to do, there's a lot of things to look at to do a comparison to get us there. But that being said, I think it's reasonable to talk about percentages potentially of what you're spending in your budget if you have similar kinds of activities, not necessarily dollars, if that makes sense.
Steve, how many, I apologize, I'm throwing this at you. How many discrete municipalities are there in Delaware County? You know?
Oh, jeez. I don't.
49 I think is the right number. I think there's 49.
Wow. Okay.
You got to remember, in
Yeah.
Pennsylvania, there's over 2,600 municipalities. And over 1,600 of them are second-class townships. I mean, there is not, unlike, and for folks who have come from places outside of Pennsylvania, they don't understand this. I mean, because Pennsylvania is an anomaly in regards to local government.
And you have the whole thing with the police force. and the
Well, I mean,
police and all
but
that.
even just because we're a commonwealth, our philosophy is
Okay,
different.
yeah.
We approach local government differently. And in most states, the county is the powerhouse.
Yeah.
In Pennsylvania, the powerhouse is the local government. And I say that, there's a lot of controls that come from the state level on the local government and what you
Cascade
can and
down,
can't
yeah.
do. But in regards to decision-making, it is the local government. And, we are responsible for fire, for police, for those kind of things if we choose to have those things. And it is, in many other states, that's on a county level. And it's done on that level. And there's areas within the county that the county totally controls. They're not incorporated into a municipality within the county. They're just controlled by the county. There's not even when the county owns land in Delaware County, it's within the control for zoning and all of that by that local municipality. So, for example,
Yeah, what's going on in Marple with the old Don?
yeah, exactly. Marple is involved in that process, where if it was in some states, the county may own that land, it'd be open in
Well,
for
they have
part of the
authority
county,
over it.
and they would have total authority. That doesn't happen in Pennsylvania anywhere, because there's not any piece of land in Pennsylvania that's not incorporated into a municipality. Even if it's within a county, there's every piece of land within that county is within a municipality within that county. It's a very different form of government.
Even if somebody utility, same thing. It's all inside the county. And it is rare. I mean, Steve's been in many other states. I've dealt with New Jersey and things like that, but
So it's like, there's a lot of things you have to look at.
Rich, I think I'm gonna have you take that one on in round two.
Sounds good.
I mean, let me tell you, it's a lot of fun to look at them. Yeah, I mean, there really is a lot of fun. I
Well,
mean,
folks are gonna ask questions about it.
you know, and I will say this, and I don't want to hold us up, but, and I will say this, is that one of the things that I think that is so key in where we are, you know, I talk about it, but I think it's one of the things that makes Pennsylvania a fun state to work in and do what I do, is because as a local level, we actually do control what services we have. And we have a great representation base to do that. You know, we have 5 representatives that are elected by the folks that live here that represent them. You know, another way to look at it, it's like a big HOA, right? You know, and you're providing all those services
Right.
that for those folks that live in that,
Perfect
in that
analogy.
community. And so, you know, we get to serve in a place that's like that. And so the local person has the most say, I think, of any place because of that, is in Pennsylvania, because of the way we do things. There's lots of things that I think make it inefficient, but there's also the ability that the local person really gets an opportunity to have a say.
Okay, in terms of old business, the only other point I have, and I think I'll hold off. Steve, you had alluded in the last meeting that there's been some behind the scenes consideration of stormwater fees going forward, realizing the ARPA monies will run out in the near future. I'll just hold off in terms of whether or not the township, the supervisors are gonna look for input from this committee. in
Yeah, I
terms of
think that,
supporting that.
what I'm asking, I'm hoping that what the board will do is set direction for you, what they want in the future.
Yes,
And I'm asking them to do that for all the committees.
right,
So, I mean, that's what I'm hoping comes out.
perfect. Public comment, I see none. I will call the meeting adjourned at 9:05. Thanks.
Thank you.
Can I get you to give that to me, Laura?
I will do it.
And you gotta go to the funeral. And I'll be
Oh.
back.
Yeah, I heard about that. That's just,
Joe?
yeah.